For this project, we need scissors, thread, pins, measuring tape, lining fabric, outside fabric, snaps for the closure, and decorative beads. We're going to start by cutting out the shape that you'd like for your purse. This can be any shape as long as you remember to include 1 centimeter seam allowance around the edge. You're going to cut 2 of these pieces. Then you're going to use your measuring tape to measure around the 3 sides of your purse, not including the top side. With that measurement, we're going to cut out a strip. I made mine 5 centimeters, but it can be up to you depending on how much depth you'd like to your purse. And don't forget a 1 centimeter seam allowance around every edge of that strip. We're now going to create a facing. I used the purse that we've already cut out as a stencil and then cut it 5 centimeters in width. We're going to cut this piece twice. You can now start to see how the purse is all going to fit together. The reason for the facing is it'll create a sturdier surface to attach your snaps. Now, using the width of the facing and the width of the side piece, we're going to cut out 2 rectangles in the outside fabric. We're now ready to cut the strap for the purse. This can be any length or width that you'd like. Again, using our purse as our stencil, we're going to cut the lining. We're going to cut the rest of the purse that isn't covered by the facing. As you can see, the lining makes up what the facing doesn't, and we're going to cut 2 of these pieces. And these should be all your pieces cut out in your purse fabric. We're going to start by creating our inside lining pieces. So we're going to start by attaching our facing and our lining right sides together. And then we're going to sew those with a straight stitch. Once you're done sewing, you can iron those pieces flat. And now we're ready to attach the snaps. Using our measuring tape will help place the pieces so they align perfectly. And then you're going to use your hand sewing needle to attach the snaps. You can now make sure that they line up when you snap them closed. Now we're going to cut another side piece out of our lining and attach it to our 2 facing pieces. These 3 pieces should add up to the length that we measured previously. Keep in mind to add a 1 centimeter seam allowance on each end of the lining piece. Now, placing right sides together of your facing and your side piece, you're going to sew with a straight stitch. And you're now ready to attach this piece to your lining. So again, placing right sides together, we're going to line up the facing and pin along the outside. And then placing your second lining piece on top of that, we're going to place right sides together and pin along the outside again. All your facing pieces should line up and it should be in the shape of a purse. You're now ready with a straight stitch to sew where you've pinned. The corners can be a little tricky, but just take it slow. And once you're all done sewing these pieces, you can iron the lining flat. We're now ready to do the exact same steps with the outside fabric of our purse. So again, placing the purse piece down and the side piece right sides together, you're going to pin along the edges. And then place the second piece of the purse on top and do the same step. And with that all pinned, you're ready to sew with a straight stitch. You may want to clip the corners to make it easier to flip inside out. You can now iron this piece as well. Once it's all ironed, this would be a good time to do any beading work if you like. So I traced mine out with a white pencil crayon and then used my hand needle and thread to place my beads. I used the thread to create spacing between the beads. We're now ready to iron our strap, so folding in 1 centimeter on each side and then folding in half. It helps to iron this piece before you sew. And then just sew along the edge with a straight stitch. With your strap sewn, we're ready to attach all 3 pieces. Make sure your lining and your purse are both flipped inside out. You're then going to place the strap in between the 2 and attach the right sides together, making sure all the seams are aligned. So as you can see here, placing the strap in between the 2 layers. And then you're going to pin all around the edges. And sew with a straight stitch. I forgot to leave a hole in the lining, so I used my seam ripper to unstitch about 3 centimeters. You can also leave this gap while you're sewing the lining. You're then going to pull the entire purse through that hole that you created. And then you can tuck the lining back down into the purse. Now use your iron to iron all the seams flat. The last step is to use your hand needle to close the hole in the lining. It's nice for this step to use the same color thread as your fabric. Trim away any excess thread and you're all done.